Good day, everyone. This is Jean. I work with Frédéric at PageSpeed Leads, and I'm the app maker behind this application here. And today I want to do a little bit of a more technical video on the latest feature that we added, which is the advanced embeddable form. So up to now, what you had to add a form on your website to harvest emails and connect people to your agency PSL account was an iframe, which is this part here. And this is all good and dandy. It's super simple to install, but it comes at a cost. It's not as flexible. You can't customize it as much. So we gave you a way to change the button text, and the color of the button comes from your brand color here. But other than that, you can't add new fields. You can't, move things around. It's really limited. So that's what the advanced form is for. It's to give you full control over that form that you embed on your website, but still be able to send us the data so that the PageSpeed Leads service can be offered. So what I will do today is I will go from an iframe installation to the advanced form, and then I will show you gradually just what else that advanced form can give you. So here I have a very basic WordPress website. It's a default template. I made a child theme of the default theme. And this is a template on which I've embedded the iframe solution. So this is exactly the same form that we saw in the PageSpeed Leads account. So the very first step is to go and grab that form, that advanced form, and put that instead of the iframe. So here we go. It's still copy paste. Now the important part here is that on my website right now, I'm already loading jQuery. So this is what this comment is telling me. If I'm already loading jQuery, I can remove these two lines. And I should remove them because not only is it going to be more efficient, but having two versions of jQuery could cause some issues. So that being done, I can come back to my website here, reload, and we'll see that the page completely changes. Now, it's very ugly, but that's by design. We don't put any CSS styling on the advanced form. It's up to you to style it to look good on your website. So all the styling that we see here is what this theme by default gives web forms. So the second thing we're going to do, or the first thing we're going to do with the advanced form, is we're going to make this a little bit prettier. So on your page here, you'll see there's a bunch of instructions, form events, and we'll see all of those. But right now, I just want to show you the CSS classes. So there's a little bit of blurb here to tell you what classes you can expect. So if I go to my style sheet for the theme, all our forms are going to have the CSS class PageSpeed Leads dash form. So that you can really namespace your CSS rules. So in this case, we're just going to add a little bit of margin to the fields, change the button to purple, and then the text that shows up when you submit the form is going to be bolded and either green if it's success or red if it's an error. And I'll show you just what that means. So now that I've done this, I can reload the site. And we see that the form, actually looks different. And this is a fully functional form. So if I try and submit that, obviously I didn't put an email or URL, so it should give me an error message. And indeed it does. And this, it's bold and red. So, the CSS that we've applied obviously is working. The second thing that I want to show you about the advanced form is about adding new data. So we only need the email and the URL for PSL, and that's all we'll store in our database. But we are also allowing you to link to MailChimp. So you could add MailChimp custom fields or merge fields to the form, and we'll just turn around and pass that information for you. So let's say I want to add the phone number I want to request the phone number from my user. So I could go back to my form. So this is the code I pasted, and now I can start and customize it. So let's add a third field, which is going to be phone. So this is the name from MailChimp. Placeholder can be anything. If I save that and go back and reload, I now have 3 fields as expected. And so now if I go and fill that out, And there's really, this is a dumb field, like there's no filtering or validation. It's just to show you that the data will get there. I can go with PageSpeed Leads, and if I go test my site, we get a thank you note. And if I go in MailChimp and I look at my list, I should have one lead, demo 4, phone number got there, so everything was just passed over. And again, we at PSL only need the email address and the URL that was provided to do our job, so that's all we'll keep. The rest is just really passed along to MailChimp. And finally, the last thing I want to show you is events. So what we've seen right now can give you quite a bit forward into what, customizing the whole thing, but maybe you want to customize even more the user experience. It can be adding validation, field validation, for instance, or it could be making sure that you want to take over the success and error messages so they don't show as little text under the button. Maybe you have nice toast components on your website or whatever. And for this you would use events. And again, they are described here. If you or one of your team knows JavaScript and has been working with jQuery, they will look familiar. I mean, they work like regular jQuery events. So if I go back to my code, I have a little bit of JavaScript here, which is going to be pretty useless in itself, but it's basically just to show you what can be done. So there's a validate event where you can do some extra validation. We'll give you the data that's being submitted, and so you can validate and then show errors or whatever. If validation fails, for instance, you could return false here, and that will prevent the form from being submitted in an invalid state. And then there's a success and an error event, which basically allow you to either add behaviors for a success or an error on top of us showing that little success or error text, or you can basically completely take over that whole process. And in this case, that's what we'll do. Instead of showing text under the button, we will show an ugly browser alert with the message. And then by returning false, we make sure that whatever PSL does by default will not happen. So in this case, we've totally took over the feedback loop. So I save this, and I go back to my website. And so again, here I'm going to submit an empty form, so it's going to give me an error. It should call 2 events, one for validation, and because I'm not returning false, it's going to try and submit the form, and then there should be one for error. Here we go. So this is telling me, yeah, I would do validation here. And then, oh, no, okay, so there's an error. And this message here is exactly what we used to show under the button. So now I've shown it in an alert, and I've returned false, so it's not going to appear under the button. So this allows you really full control over what you can do with the form. I mean, we've given you hooks. If you feel there's some missing, please tell us. But I mean, I think it's pretty robust, and it's going to give you what you need to do. The last thing you need to note is that for security reasons, right now you need to install this form only on the site that you've provided us here as the website for your agency. You will not be able to, it will not work on another site. Every time you will try and submit from another site, it's going to give you an error, and that's by design again. We will see about maybe adding other websites, but we're still discussing this. It's a security issue. So yeah, that's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know, and enjoy.